1460 WVOX.
Stay tuned now for the Racing for Heroes radio show with host Brett Morash on 1460 WVOX.
All right, thanks for being here, Racing for Heroes fans. It is Brett Morash. It is Friday, April 29th, and we are here on 1460 AM WVOX.com and, of course, Facebook Live. We have a fun show today. It is a show talking all about Legends cars, which I like to think of as little gangster cars. If you ever see them, they look like really cool 1930s gangster cars. The only thing they're missing is a running board and a guy hanging on the side with a Tommy gun. But first up, though, we're going to have our guest, DJ Murphy. He is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, a retiree as well. Just super glad to have him here. He was a staff sergeant when he got out, a bunch of Navy combination medals and 7 Navy Marine Corps Achievement medals. I mean, he's just the man. So, DJ, you on, brother?
I am, man. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. And listen, I just want to say, like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone with 7 Navy Marine Corps Achievement medals. Like, I think you have to get like the silver or gold stars for that one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
so I cashed in 4 of them for 1, right?
That's right. No, listen, I think it's the most amazing thing ever. So, and I still think you need to throw your hat in the ring for the New York State Award so you can get your like a New York State cross, because you're actually a New Yorker where you grew up, upstate, right?
What's that?
You grew up upstate New York, right?
I did. I grew up in the Rochester Finger Lakes area, at a small little town right outside of Canisius Lake called Livonia, New York.
Yeah.
And it's just out in the woods, enjoying life on the lake.
And then you figured the Marine Corps was for you, so you joined the Corps.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really have much going for me. I worked at a small fabrication shop. I enjoyed working with my hands. I knew that I wanted to do something that involved working on something. I didn't know what, whether it's construction equipment or wheeled vehicles. I had a buddy whose brother ended up joining. He come back on boot leave, kind of told me his feelings on what he went through, and it sounded appealing. And one thing led to another. By no means was I easy to recruit. I think I ghosted my recruiter a couple times, but we ended up pulling through and made it down to Paris and graduated. Ended up becoming a diesel technician. Worked my way up through the ranks. Ended up retiring as a motor transport maintenance chief, MOS 3529.
Yeah, right.
Also served as a canvassing recruiter in New Hampshire, to include a civil affairs NCO for my last deployment in 2010 to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So,
and there's actually not, and I don't think a lot of people know that, civil affairs is one of those organizations in the military I have a lot of affinity for, but there's actually very few Marine Corps civil affairs folks.
It is. It's actually funny they just brought that up. I was actually the first active duty Marine detachment ever in Marine Corps history. And I was one of the very first to go through the school, which is in Quantico, and the MOS is 0531.
Yeah, and for the listeners who don't know what civil affairs are, they are sort of the interface between the military and civil authorities in combat zones, or even if it's kind of like shaping operations like I was doing in East Africa. But I always think of them as like the infantry and artillery kind of roll through and blow everything up, and the civil affairs guys show up and help write checks to make everyone happy again. But that just simplifies what is a very hard job, and I think unappreciated. But let's talk about racing here. Let's shift gears a little bit. So you're in the Legend class, which I don't think a lot of people realize what those are, but they're like small race cars. They're all like a spec car with a motorcycle engine. Tell us about it.
So basically what they are is they're 5/8 scale cars from the old NASCARs from the early 30s. My particular car, I got a 1934 Ford Coupe with a Chevy front end. And they're all spec'd with the exception of there's 3 different types of engine packages you have. You have a open 1200, a sealed 1250, and then you have what I have, which is a sealed FC09 fuel injected engine, which is a 3-cylinder, basically equivalent of 1,000 cc. I guess it's like an R1 engine. They're all Yamahas.
Yeah. So and I'm sure it's pretty bulletproof engine at the end of the day. I mean, they make just fantastic pieces of gear.
Oh, absolutely. The sanctioning body does a good job testing and tuning these things and dialing them in for us, especially my particular engine. They're getting a lot more usage and a lot more races out of these particular engines.
Sure.
Hence why they converted from the carbureted to the fuel injectors. So
yeah, we have
Willie. Not always a bad thing.
Yeah, we have Willie Reinhauer on after you. He'll be coming up and talking a little bit more about sort of like the class and distribution and all that sort of stuff. So let's talk about what you're doing now. So you're in your second season of racing, and one of the questions that came up this morning from the morning show when I was talking to them was, are you racing asphalt or dirt, or can you do both with a Legends car?
With our cars, you can do both if you're willing to take the time and effort to change the setups if a different setup's necessary. But as of right now, I'm only running strictly asphalt. I would like at some point to get on dirt, but it's not really on my to-do list at the moment.
Sure.
But definitely something to consider later on.
Yeah, and you're doing a racing out at Carteret County as well as Goodyear All-American Speedways, right?
Yep. Those are the two tracks that I've been running at for the past 2 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that. So how did you get into Legends? Like, why not something else like dirt track, like late model, that sort of thing?
Yeah. All right. So I actually was looking at go-karts, and the reason I was looking at go-karts originally was my father had raced go-karts, and I kind of wanted to follow in line with kind of what he did. Not only that, but he could kind of spread his expertise because we really didn't know anything else other than racing dirt bikes, four-wheelers, and then his go-karts racing in upstate New York. I mean, my dad was one of the premier guys in all of upstate New York in the 70s and 80s, racing at Watkins Glen, taking many championships and winning a lot of races. So, I was like, man, why don't I just get into this and then have my dad assist with me. And I remember he always used to take us to the dirt track, frequently. And he'd always have this infatuation with those. He's like, man, at the time, I believe they were called dwarf cars when I was a kid, because that's what he always referenced them.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I do remember that. Because like when I was a kid, we used to go, I grew up in Massachusetts, but we would go out to like Pittsfield and stuff like that and watch the races. I think you're right. I think they called them dwarf cars before they were Legends. Yep.
So he'd always tell me, he's like, those things, he used to call me Murph. Murph, those things are freaking awesome. That's what we need to get into. And he's like, we just never did,
Yeah.
And then, as time went on, my time in the service, I didn't have much time for anything, retired. And then I was like, you know what, let's get back into this and, let's do Legends. Come across a really good deal a couple of years ago. Guys selling a car up in the Pocono areas up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Went up there, bought a whole race package, race ready with a trailer included, brand new trailer.
Wow.
And one thing led to another. I got hooked up with 316s with Willie, and
rest is history.
Had great success so far.
Yeah.
Last year I placed third at Carteret County Speedway. This past weekend I just took the points lead at Goodyear's.
Oh,
and tomorrow I'm racing at. Thank you. And tomorrow we race at Carteret County Speedway for our second race of the season. So
that's amazing. Now, have you raced against Adam Benaway yet? Because I know that he's getting into Legends from kind of his previous race series.
I have not, but I did go up to Fayetteville Motor Speedway for the North Carolina Speed Week, and did get a chance to see him race up there.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing racer, and I'm super excited to see him really cutting his teeth with the Legends cars coming up. In fact, I think the picture we posted has a picture of Adam's car in sort of the lineup. But yeah, no, that's amazing. Although, Willie and I were joking last night when we were talking on the phone that what we were going to do is we were going to hang crayons off the back of another person's car to get you to follow them and not try to take the lead. I was like, just too low hanging fruit, man. Too easy. That's great. So no, go ahead.
I said, you don't know if I have a box in there. I may start throwing them back.
I think so. Now, as everyone knows, balloons eat crayons. It's part of the job. So my kids are just kind of finally getting that joke, and I'm just like, you guys are killing me, because they're Navy brats, so they just, they don't have any natural enemies. But yeah, but so tell us about Mad Dog Racing. So like that's your team though, right? Like your little race
So
team.
basically all that was we created that just kind of we went into this blind with no sponsorships, no sponsorship help. Everything we've done up to this point has strictly come out of our own funds. We generated Mad Dog Murphy Racing as a way to kind of bridge the gap with kind of not having a sponsor to kind of having our own sponsor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And, the ultimate goal for myself and my wife is for our kids to come up through the racing community.
Yeah.
And, within the next year or two, I foresee my kids both in Bandoleros. My two youngest are boy-girl twins. They're 6 now, getting ready to turn 7. So the goal is to have some fun, let Dad have a little bit more fun, and then transition into coach, mentor, / dad, team owner.
Oh, listen, I appreciate that. I people who listen to the show know that my kids race sailboats, and we started with like the little tiny Optimus boats, and now they're racing lasers. Which is like a class you can go all the way to the Olympics with. So, I think it's important, I think, as parents and as part of the racing community, is that it's really about giving to the next generation to come up and seeing where they're going to go. And I think, I'm sure that you have, besides just yourself and your wife, but like, you have people who are supporting you out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nobody bigger than my wife, and Willie and Shelly with 316s. They have been a lifesaver. We had an incident at our very first race on a Wednesday practice where I was upside down sliding on the backstretch.
Oh, wow.
And kind of tore up the car pretty good. And, had they not been able to do what they did for me, I would have never been able to make it to that race on Saturday. So, it's people like that we're very thankful and appreciative to. And, it's amazing. It really is.
And that's what it's all.
Many pull us together to help one another.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's really about the community and making sure that you're there to support each other. And before I switch over to Willie, any other shout outs for your sponsors?
No, again, I thank the good Lord above to be able to, my wife.
Well, listen, Amanda's lucky to have you as her husband. I'm sure that she's totally into it, and Dallin, Braden, Trinity, and Olivia, they're there too to help out as the team. Is any of those guys carrying gas to the car and putting tires on yet? Or no,
I made it too easy for him. I got a gas caddy, so all I got to do is roll the sucker out there and pump it up.
that sounds. They'll get there. That's amazing. You got to start them off somewhere. No, that's great.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, DJ, I just want to thank you again for being there. Obviously, Semper Fi Mac. And I just, I have a place in my heart for the Marines. Having been on amphibious ships is my first ship in the Navy, so I just, I love you guys. Even the Motor T guys. I think I told you we had the poor Motor T officer crashed a rental car, and that guy I don't think he ever made it to 03 because of it. So, all right, well, thanks again, DJ.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, Roger that, out here. All right, with that, that was DJ Murphy, U.S. Marine Corps veteran and now Legends car driver. And with that, though, we are going to talk to Willie Reinhauer, who is a U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer. He is stationed down in Fayetteville land down in North Carolina, but he is also the owner of 316 Motorsports LLC, and we'll be talking a little bit about racing and what the Legends cars are all about. So, Willie, you're on the call.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, listen, well, thanks for being here, and obviously, you've been on the show before. We're going to talk a little bit about 316 Motorsports and about legend car racing.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I appreciate you guys having us back. And one correction, I'm up at Fort Lee, Virginia now.
Fort Lee, sorry.
Up at the Ordnance Schoolhouse. I travel back to Fort Bragg every week, which is tiresome. But
that's a hump.
Yeah, so with the Legends, yeah, it's a very affordable division, designed to be a very tight set of rules, so you're not getting out money. And which is what happens with a lot of these divisions out there, a lot of the different series. But I think, I didn't catch everything that you and DJ had been talking about with the dwarf cars. I actually think dwarf cars may have spurred from legend cars. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I know 1992 is when Charlotte Motor Speedway kind of stood up the Legends, just to fill a need for an affordable racing series that was kind of a little more low maintenance, and you didn't need a crew to go to the track and have a good time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, maybe I'm going to go research that after the show, because I explicitly remember that as a kid seeing and then referring to them as dwarf cars, but maybe it wasn't the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would be interested in the history of that as well, because y'all got me thinking about that. And then I actually popped on the Legends, US Legends website and kind of reviewed their history there real quick, and to see if there was something in there about where which one spurred from the other. But I'm sure there was some form of racing out there at the time. But nonetheless, it's by far the most affordable form of racing you can do to get into a car.
Besides maybe go-karts, right? I mean,
I don't know these days. You talk to some of these go-karters, they'll spend a small fortune in tire prep. So
true.
The area you're in.
Yeah. So what is like the basic kind of price of entry though? Like what would someone expect to, like, in order to get to like a basic car on the track? What do you think?
You can still, if you had a good $8,000 to $10,000 budget, would get you a good used car, and a lot of your tools you need, and some of the safety equipment and all that stuff. Used cars, I always tell people, just kind of, reach out to someone who knows what they're looking at and have them help you look at a car before just jumping in the used car. But new cars run right around $17,000, $18,000. That's a brand new
turnkey
showroom floor. Turnkey, and up from there. I mean, obviously we sell cars, upwards 20,000 plus, depending on how. If you want all the bells and whistles, do you want a baseline model, or do you want the Lariat package?
Sure, but I think at the end of the day, though, the cars are pretty spec'd out that it's a pretty fair racing series at the end of the day.
Yes, and that is one thing that has just kept me with Legends over the years. Is you don't need all of these different people to help you and all that stuff. They're pretty basic, and the rules package are pretty close. I mean, the adjustments you can make it. There's adjustments you can do, and obviously springs and all this stuff to get an advantage over a competitor. But at the end of the day, the rules is a very close, very policed up rules package, which keeps the racing close. And generally, when you go to your local dirt track or asphalt track or whatever it is, the racing in the Legends division is usually a much closer racing than you would see in other divisions. And it's just because the cars are so similar, even with different setups. And there's only so much you can do. So it does make for some very good racing.
Yeah, because even then, like the engine packages, there's really not a whole lot of difference. DJ mentioned there was 3 different types of engines, but they're all fairly comparable, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even with the FZ09 coming out, US Legends did, and Chad over at the engine shop with US Legends, they did a phenomenal job with getting the new engine where it's not at an advantage over the old engine. You still got guys with the old style carbureted air-cooled engine running competitively with the FZ09, which is fuel injected, water cooled. You can go and take either one. Obviously, in the summer months, depending on the track surface, the water cooled engine may have a slight advantage, but I don't think they could have done a better job to introduce a new engine package and keep the cars on a level playing field. I mean, they just did a phenomenal job with that.
Yeah, because I kind of remember talking to Adam Benaway in a previous show about that, because if I'm not mistaken, he has an air-cooled engine. Because he's now come into that series as of last year.
He may be going. I think he came in late 2020, but he just swapped over. We actually just swapped his car over beginning of this year. We did the FZ09 conversion in his car at Speed Week back in late February. It was his first time out with the new engine. It'd be interesting that for you maybe have him back on the show sometime and and get his input in on, you know, the differences between the older engine and the newer engine.
No, I think we
for
should.
the most part, yeah, for the most part, most drivers are pleased with the new engine. There is some differences in the power in them. The new engine has actually got less power than the older engine, but just due to it being fuel injected and water cooled,
Responsive.
and yeah, it equals out in the end. And but driving style, it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. Because I raced for years with the older engine, and it took me a few races to get used to the new engine.
But I think that's an important point, because these are also solid axle cars, right? If I'm not mistaken. So they're not like independent suspension, right?
No. It's a Toyota 10-bolt rear end. It's not a solid. I guess it is, but it is. It's a spooled
straight
rear
axle,
end,
straight axle,
or a welded. Yeah, spooled or welded. It's the same thing as the straight axle rear end. Yes. Tires are coupled to each other. There's no limited slip or nothing like that. So yeah.
Well, that's why I like with respect to horsepower, though. I mean, it's really about how much you can really transfer to the ground. I mean, at the end of the day, and you know, if you're on a dirt track, you might have a ton of torque, but unless you can transfer that, it ain't doing much for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I guess that's a challenge in any form of racing, whether it's drag racing or dirt track racing or asphalt racing. And one thing that just sets some drivers apart from the other is how far can I push the limit to get the maximum amount of grip that car is going to give me on whatever surface it is. And you know, between setup and driver, being able to find that limit, that's it. And yeah.
And have you seen drivers going back and forth between asphalt and dirt in the same vehicle, or is that setup changed like just a little too much in the general sense?
No, it's definitely an option. I actually did it. I think it was late 2020. I ran asphalt or dirt nationals one weekend and changed the car over to asphalt throughout the week, and then the next weekend went to an asphalt track and actually won.
Oh, wow.
So it's very possible to do. It depending on how competitive you want to be. I mean, I would probably recommend two separate cars. It isn't too difficult to do, though. It's actually pretty simple. Just change out some springs and you know, kind of move how things are set up with the suspension of the car. But it's a pretty simple thing. It used to be really common. Guys, actually, a local track that runs throughout the week, guys would run there, and then they would go run over at the Shootout or Concord Speedway or other places over in the Charlotte area. And I think some guys were dropping some dirt on the track, so the asphalt guys didn't like it.
That's right, shaking loose.
Car mounting, this is key.
No, I think that's important. Listen, I've seen Mike Ebach, our founder and sort of the guy we look to at Racing Heroes for all things racing. I mean, I've seen just amazing amount of dirt underneath his race car, and the amount of time and energy to get that thing cleaned is just unreal.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. Dirt racing is definitely. I'll be honest. I work on a lot of guys' cars. I would about rather work on a dirt car than an asphalt car, because most dirt guys have a very meticulous maintenance program, and cleaning and all that. They go through a whole routine. Whereas an asphalt guy, a lot of times will throw his car in a trailer and then maybe get it out during the week and wipe it down and tighten a few bolts and throw it back in the trailer. Not in all cases, but there's some people out there who have a very meticulous maintenance program on asphalt as well. But, generally, I see the dirt cars are cleaner than the asphalt cars.
Well, listen, I think it's important because there are cultural differences between all different types of racing, right? I mean, what you're doing is a whole lot different than someone who's driving at a Porsche club on the weekends too. So like, I think it's just like a different thing, but I think those are important differences. And I think it's also one of those things that, it's sort of like talking about all the different services. We can pick on each other all day long, but at the end of the day, we're all part of like one team, one fight. And I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And anyone out there wanting to get into Legends or get their kid into Legends, reach out to us. We do, we do practice days. We do driver development programs. We do rentals and all that type stuff. We're trying to get a track set up here probably the next few weeks, maybe a month, to get some guys out, get some seat time.
In Fort Lee? Near Fort Lee?
What's that?
Oh, so listen, so the only question I have, we're getting the last 2 minutes of the show, Willie. Where am I going to go if I'm interested in learning a little more about 316 Motorsports?
We have a website, just www.316motorsports.com, spelled out the long way.
Yep.
And also our Facebook page. I believe our Facebook page is tagged on the Racing for Heroes page.
Yep.
You can call us 704-995-1356. Give us a call. I'd be happy to talk with anyone, or whether you come to us or there's probably 50 other dealers across the country. I know you guys are out of New York. There's some good dealers up there. There's a dealer up in Maine, New Jersey. There's dealers everywhere, all parts of the country. That's one thing that makes Legends so great is it's the same rules package no matter where you go. I can race in all 50 states and even 29 other countries where Legend cars are at, and it's the same rules package.
29 other
29
countries.
different countries.
That's amazing. I maybe like there's like an Iraqi and the Afghan one that, that was our gift to them instead of spam this time that the US was overseas, but that's for a different show. But Willie, I want to thank you. Thanks for being here, and and I hope you have the best. And I know you have some medical stuff coming up, so I hope that all goes well.
Well, thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the hook song. So we will be back next week. Looking forward to that. And with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.